Welcome to the Operation Game Night podcast, episode 25. Today, our main topic is we are going to interview Paul Salomon of Gamehead Games. Paul, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Joining me, as always, are my co-hosts. He's fresh from refining scary numbers, hoping to earn a waffle party. Clayton Gable, how you doing, Clay?
I'm doing good. I feel like several episodes ago, Jared was very vulnerable about his herpes, so I would like to also point out that
Oh my god,
I've come with a herpes treat today too. So sorry,
Understood.
Sorry for the viewers. It's been a stressful week, but yeah.
More importantly, sorry, Paul.
Yeah, sorry, Paul.
Yeah, it's okay. I've got like some sort of a throat thing. My uvula is real swollen, so that's the closest I've got. And Clay, I just want to say thank you. I know the work is mysterious and important, so thank you for the work you do on the data refinement.
Of course.
Speaking of mysterious and important work, he's fresh from the break room. He had to say he's sorry 1,000 times. Jared Erickson, how you doing, Jared?
I couldn't be better for. Is this a silver anniversary or is it called platinum? 25 is kind of a big deal, right?
25.
25 is big.
Wow.
Quarter of 100. Excellent. Hey, we've got a great show for you today. We're going to debrief our week in gaming. We're going to talk to Paul Salomon about his new position at Gamehead Games and some exciting new releases that they have on the horizon. And then we're going to go over the fence and talk about what we've been doing outside of board gaming. So, Paul, guest of honor, I want you to go first. Feel free to give a brief intro if you want to, but let's hear about your week in gaming.
Sure. I'm Paul Salomon. As you guys know, I am a game designer, designed Honeybuzz, Stamp Swap, Genotype, Periodic, got some more coming up. And now I'm the creative director for Gamehead Games. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm also a math teacher. I teach part-time and I do games all of the rest of the time. And yeah, do I get to talk about what I did in games this week?
Yeah,
please.
Plan? All right, cool. So every Monday night, basically, I go play games with my buddy Tommy, and my buddy Matt used to come, but he got this new, he's like, I don't know, he's like in charge of a Costco now, so he works like 3 a.m. to I don't know what. We've just basically never seen him since. So my buddy Pete comes, and we played a whole bunch of games, as we do every week. 2-player game, Architects of Amytist, which I was very impressed by. I'll come back to this one here in a second. I played Eternal Decks, which is a new Eternal Decks is a new game from Hirokin, I believe, who did I'll have to remember, but I can't right now. Rebirth from Reiner Knizia, Monolith from my favorite designer Phil Walker Harding, Spring Cleaning from John Cox of John Gets Games, aka Getting Games, and the Peach Festival. Let me tell you about Architects of Amytist for a second. Has anybody here played it?
No.
This is a 3x3 grid. Both players have a 3x3 grid, and you're going to put tiles there and stack them up and score the state of your board. And then in the center of the table is another 3x3 grid of the tiles you're drafting. And so what you do on your turn is you place a worker on the center board and take that tile, and it's maybe one of 6 types, that would be in a city, and you place it on your board somewhere, and then it immediately scores some effect. Like it might score the Colosseum scores for how many workers are on the board. And so the longer you wait, the better it gets. Or how many different buildings you have, or buildings of the same color, etc. And you're trying to do a few different things. One, you're trying to optimize that immediate scoring, which I really like on games like Castles of Mad King Ludwig, where every turn you play something and you get, or Reef. I really like that. But then also, you're trying to complete patterns on your board. This is probably why I ended up winning the game, is that I just finished a lot of these color patterns. But then the other thing you're trying to do, which is so unique and cool, is to play tic-tac-toe on the center board. So that sort of like pushes you to take tiles that maybe aren't the best for you on your own board, but block your opponent in a very obvious and direct way, as opposed to saying, oh, they really need a market right now. I just go, okay, I need to block that spot. Which is super cool. And the when you do that, you get your workers back, which is good. But you also get to place a token on an end of game scoring objective. So you don't have any of those innately. You have to hit
Mhm.
tic-tac-toes to get that. And it was just, it was a really dynamic back and forth game. I was very impressed with it.
That sounds
Got a 3
awesome.
out of 3. Yeah.
This is by the same publisher, at least, that does Cosmic Frog, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Bolt de Jus. They do some like
Yeah.
really weird, unique stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, I haven't played that one, but people talk about how goofy and wild it is. And obviously, I love the theme of these gigantic cosmic frogs, which I think they're eating planets or
Yeah,
something
they're
like
eating
that.
planets. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy.
Very cool. I also got a chance to play Rebirth from Reiner Knizia, which he's definitely one of maybe my number 2 favorite designer all time. Obviously a prolific designer, incredible concepts, and another mathematician like myself.
Oh yeah.
Um, Rebirth is really cool, and I think it's been described as his take on Kingdom Builder, which I
Yeah.
played and didn't like. Kingdom Builder, you get a tile and you put it down and you score some points. And in Rebirth, you do that with a lot more kind of pizzazz and better actions. There's some area control on these castles, and you place next to monasteries to get personal objectives you try to maintain, and you try to connect these long networks of farms to score a bunch of points. And just really, I was very impressed. It's kind of like I don't know if I would even call it, I guess it's medium weight. It's medium to lightweight Euro. But it does a lot in an hour, 45 minutes. And that is what I love in games is I don't want to sit there and play a game for 2 hours, but I really enjoy this one. And it's a little mean.
Yeah.
It's a little interactive in that way. But it didn't bother me too much. And maybe that's partly because I was the guy that was taking things away from everybody. And, somebody would be in position to have majority on one of these cities, and then I would flop down the one and beat them by a little bit. But just a super cool design. That's one I'll be playing a bunch.
Yeah, we love that one. We just ranted about that 2 weeks ago, maybe, and yeah, that was a big hit, and it will definitely it'll probably replace Cascadero in this house because Cascadero just seems like a little bit too finicky, a little bit harder to teach. Like Rebirth is so easy to teach. Pick out a chip and put it down in a spot that matches that symbol. Like that,
Yeah.
It got a Rachel run it back. So
oh yeah.
That's
my
my
wife.
wife. Right away.
My wife, not a
Wow.
gamer, left the room. I packed it all up because we played it, and she came back and was like, "Why'd you put it away? Let's play it again."
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's kind of
That's
like
super
our
cool.
Medal of Honor
Yeah.
here on the
Yeah.
Application Game.
I bet.
think so.
Have you guys played the Ireland side or just the Scotland?
we only played the Scotland side. We played that twice, but I haven't really dug into the Ireland side yet.
Yeah, the Ireland one, you have 4 tiles that you don't get, so that's a little more difference between the players. And then the monasteries are replaced with these watchtowers that have like public effects that you get. And I don't know, one of my favorite things in Rebirth, which is this goofy tie break. I don't know if you guys talked about this. But if you're tied for most points, then it goes to whoever controls the Edinburgh Castle. And if the tied players are tied on Edinburgh Castle, it's whoever controls this other castle, and they don't even have to be in the lead for points. So
Yeah.
you can kind of like
Wow.
win in the 20-second way, which I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was we just played this last night. Loved it. 4 players. None of us had played it before. Played in like 45 minutes with 4.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was always your turn. I mean, you literally like
Right.
pick up a tile.
It whips.
Yeah, till you place it and pick up your next one. It's like everybody else has, and it's just constantly rewarding because you're just scoring points and getting things. Oh my God.
Yep.
Loved it. But at the beginning, somebody was like, why is there this like symbol on this one castle here? And I was like, I have no idea. And then eventually I was looking in the rule book for something else, and I was like, oh, that's a very interesting tie-breaking scenario.
yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Great game.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What have you guys been playing?
Yeah, Clay, hit me. Debrief your week.
Yeah, so last night we had a game night, and Rebirth was one of the games we played. But before that, we played the evergreen war farming game Scythe by Spire Games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had been a minute since I played this one. This was like, oddly enough, when I got into gaming in 2017, 2018, this was one of the first games I got after like Azul, and I made poor Mary sit down and play this thing, and it was just
0 to 100 real quick.
yeah, we were in for more than we bargained for there. But the last time I played it was probably a couple of years ago in person, and it didn't go great because it was a spontaneous decision. We had played a bunch of games beforehand, and one of the guys just saw it sitting on the shelf, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. Some people may have had too much to drink. I won't name names, but they requested to play this. I gave all the warnings. I was like, listen, this is going to be a long teach. I mean, none of you played this before, so bear with me. Got through the teach, tried to play it. Some people didn't understand. Other people, like I mentioned, were having Jared take their turns for them because they couldn't comprehend it. So we made it. We suffered through for like an hour and a half before we finally said, hey, this isn't going well right now. I knew better when we started it, but we did it anyway. So last night I came prepared. I rewatched the how to play video, even though I felt pretty comfortable with it, but I didn't want to miss anything. And I had it set up before everybody came over, and it went pretty smooth. It was a good time. I mean, in Scythe, it's like a 1920s alternate history where there was like all this technology after the Great War, and your factions vying for control and fame in this land. And yeah, it's got the constant threat of combat looming, but ultimately it's like a resource management efficiency puzzle type game where on your turn you have this player mat, and it has 4 different sections, and there's a top row in each section and a bottom row in each section. And so usually the top row action is something that you can always do. It doesn't cost much. If anything, it'll cost like 1 coin to take the top row action. That changes throughout the game, but you got things like moving, producing on land that you have workers on, trading to gain resources, and bolstering your military. And then on the bottom row, if you have the right resources for that section of the board, you can do things like deploy mechs, and you get your mechs out. You can build these structures out on the map. You can enlist and get like ongoing benefits by doing that, and upgrade, which is one of the coolest parts of this game, I think, is the upgrade mechanism. So on your player mat, there's 6 cubes, and they start in your top row, and they're covering up benefits. So they're like blocking things that you would get. And when you take the upgrade action, you can take one of those cubes from the top row, making your top row action better. And then you can place it on one of your bottom row actions to make it cheaper to do one of those things: deploy, build, enlist, etc. So that's super interesting. And you're doing this, and everybody has to start out on their own little like island, because you can't cross the rivers to start. But once you make your mech that lets you carry your people across the river, now you're starting to verge on getting in each other's faces. And the game ends when somebody's completed 6 objectives. And the objectives are either get all 4 of your mechs out, build all your buildings, enlist all 4 times, upgrade 6 times. So basically all the things on your player board, you're trying to get through those. You can also complete these secret objectives. You can get 2 stars for winning battles. And you can get a star for getting all the way up on the popularity or bolster track. So somebody gets 6 stars, the game ends immediately. You score based on how popular you were. You get more points for each of your scoring things. So like how many hexes you control, how many resources you have, how many stars you achieve during the game. So you can end the game by getting 6 stars and still lose. I've done it before. It doesn't feel good. But this is a great game. I talked about the last week. Distilled lasted like 3 hours, and with 4 players. And to be able to play a game that feels as grandiose as Scythe in less time than Distilled is just, I love that.
How long did this take you?
It took us just over 2 hours probably. So, and that, I mean, it was 3 people that never had played it before. So there was some stopping and starting as we learned the rules, but yeah, it went pretty smooth. And yeah, some of my favorite things are the encounter tokens. So there's these like little tokens on the map that if your character goes into that space, you can draw this card, and it like has this beautiful artwork and shows this scene and gives you like these 3 options that usually one's like a not popular thing. You have to lose popularity, but you can like steal somebody's mech, and you get this awesome ability to just throw a mech out on the board without even paying for it. And then, you know, there's other options, but you get those cards and they have these cool, like, you feel like you're kind of almost role playing a little bit in the game. So Scythe was great. I can see why it remains a staple in the hobby. And yeah, I wish I played it more. I don't know if Mary would be down for it, but I've heard the Rise of Fenris campaign is a lot of fun. It might be a good reason to keep coming back to this game. But yeah, just a beautiful production. Not a lot of bad to say about it. You can tell it was just designed with so much thought and like care about how everything interacted with each other. So yeah, Scythe is a great game. I think the movement, if I had to, you know, give a criticism, seemed a little hard for people to grasp, because each type of, you have your character moves different than your mechs, which moves different than your workers. And when you move, you have to move 2 different people, 1 space each. So there's just like a lot of little intricacies about the movement that add some complexity and decisions to make, but also seemed a little fiddly to some of the players I was playing with. But ultimately, it's a good game. I would highly recommend checking it out if you like efficiency puzzles, if you like that interaction too, without just being a straight up Euro. Scythe's great.
Have you played Expeditions, sort of card-based sequel to this?
No, I haven't, but it's been on my
You've played that?
Yeah, I have. I got it at Essen Spiel 2 years ago. Yeah,
Nice.
last year. Yeah, and it came with a nice little metal minis and everything.
Yeah,
it's super nice. It beautiful on the table. Yeah, I really enjoy Expeditions. It's pretty cool.
Totally. So Jamie's a buddy of mine. We both live in St. Louis, and our convention every year is Geekway to the West. And he typically will put Stonemaier games there before they're released. So we had a copy of Expeditions there with the metal mechs in the Play and Win library. And it was sort of like everybody was clamoring to get this thing out. And I got it out for like half of a play right before the thing ended, and I ended up winning the thing. So I've got my Play and Win copy over there. I like Expeditions a fair amount more than Scythe. I think the systems in Scythe are really cool, but I just didn't have a ton of fun playing it.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because Jamie is my buddy, but I don't often love his designs. Of course, Stamp Swap, my favorite Stonemaier game.
Of course. Well, you designed that one.
Yeah, that's
oh man, I'll have to check out Expeditions. Awesome. This like reinvigorated my passion for the Scythe universe, I guess. So yeah, maybe I'll check that one out.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Expeditions is it is a bit more immersive too. Like the theme is there; it tells a good story. I think there's like a campaign version of it. I only played it a couple times, but yeah, Expeditions is great. Check it out.
Yeah, I don't think there's a campaign, but there's like an expansion that adds a sort of autonomous player that you can interact with.
There you go. That's what it is.
Some other kinds of stuff. Yeah, very cool system as well. It's like a hand management sort of Concordia thing. And instead of having the 2 layers of, actions where if you have a resource, you can do the second layer, every card has like a worker spot. So you play the card for its innate effect. And then if you put a worker on it, you can do the second effect. And you gain these quest cards that require you to go places, and you can upgrade your mech for all this cool effects. But it's less worker types, less restrictions, less to think about, and just 3 actions. You either move, or take the action of the tile you're on, or play a card. And so you move this little marker to one of those and then do the other 2.
Oh,
so it's very cool.
Okay.
Very
cool. That is interesting. Yeah. You've piqued me.
Clay's easy to peak though. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all are, aren't we?
I get excited about games. That's my fault.
No.
Jared, hit me with your debrief.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to warn Paul that I am the more of the party game guy
Sure.
of the group. So I'm busting out monikers for my debrief. Yesterday, went to a great potluck, great food. I brought the brownies. There was some delicious jalapeno popper dip. And we got monikers to the table. There was 8 of us. Gemma was upstairs playing with the princesses, and we were downstairs laughing our freaking heads off because this game is a lot of fun, multi-round, where you're trying to get your team to guess it's like mostly nouns, right? Like different things that you're trying to get your team to guess in 1 minute, and you can get them to guess as many of these different monikers, if you will, in that minute. And then we played it where you kind of rotate between the people. I think there's lots of different house rules that you can do to play this. Yeah, there's a little baby Jesus. So first round you can use as many words and it's a free for all. You're trying to get the people to get the catchphrase. It gives me catchphrase vibes. But then you use those same cards in another round after you've gone through the whole deck, and I think you choose 5 cards per person. And then you do another round where now you can only say 1 word. So people have already got the names in the back of their mind, and now you're just trying to figure out, okay, I know the answers to the test, but how do I get my team on this 1 word? And then like when you're getting the hints, you're really working hard to get through it. I liked it a lot. And then the last round, charades. So Human Centipede was a lot of fun to try and get people to guess through the multi-rounds. We also had Mexican wrestler, luchador. So that was a good one. So it's just a lot of fun. I've actually played this game. They call it something different where everyone writes down their own things.
Yeah.
And it's like an easy family game you can play with anybody. You write a bunch of things down on little slips of paper, put them in a popcorn bowl, and you do the same thing. And it's a lot of fun, especially because you can kind of customize that to the night, if Clay does something silly or the Ritz Bits Miracle, I don't know. You just throw things in there and you get people to guess it. And I actually like that version a little bit more because you can be a lot more silly. And I have the humor of a 12-year-old, so I thoroughly enjoy doing that. But yeah, I don't remember what version we played yesterday. And unfortunately, I had to leave. But they had Dune Imperium ready to go.
Really?
Too.
Awesome game.
So these were some big boy gamers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But
Jared,
to appease the crowd, we played a little bit of monikers.
How bad did it hurt you?
Yes, Clayton.
How bad did it hurt you to have to leave before going to
Oh,
Arrakis, man?
don't worry, I will be setting up a play date. But
was it your copy
so
of Dune Imperium?
No,
they had their own.
Someone else in the wild.
In the wild, wow! You've run into wild gamers in Alabama.
They printed 2 copies of Dune Imperium. Hold on.
Unheard of.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I was beyond excited when I saw that. So next time we're gonna get Dune Imperium to the table.
Awesome.
So
well,
yeah,
Clay,
a lot of fun.
You can pull me off the stage here because I don't have a whole lot to brief. This week we had a harrowing week here in the Smith household, so we didn't get a whole lot played. It was a tough time. I'll talk about it a little later, but I will shout out that they added Dead Cells, the roguelite board game, onto Board Game Arena. And this is a game that I did an unboxing of when I got my Super Deluxe copy a couple weeks ago. And I love the Dead Cells franchise. It's great. It's a video game that they turned into a board game that is a roguelite board game. So what you do is you play through a level. It's cooperative. You've got 4 different characters that you can play as that specialize in different things. One is damage and one's healing and that type of stuff. One's balanced. And you go through and you fight a bunch of baddies and you open up chests and you find a bunch of loot. and then eventually it's going to become so overwhelming that you're going to lose, and then you start the whole thing over again from square one. But you can keep a couple of the upgrades as you go, and it's all card based. The box is well organized. It comes with this pretty sweet collectible miniature that isn't really used, but you can. It's a nice little collectible for those that are big fans. And so they added part 1 onto Board Game Arena, which I love that they did that. I'm not sure if it's my favorite way to play because it's supposed to be iterative. So if I join a game with a bunch of randoms and I'm going through this game multiple times with these random people, eventually somebody's going to want to drop out of that. And I'm not sure how they handle like people's karma and stuff on Board Game Arena with reiterative games like that. But yeah, if you're interested in the game, and you can check it out on Board Game Arena. I definitely want to play this more, especially now that I dug into some of the tutorials and stuff. But just opening up the box is freaking beautiful. It's got all the different biomes that you can visit and the different characters and everything, and they're all tucked away in these nice little individual boxes. So you get to the end of the level, let's say you beat all the baddies and everything, it'll let you pick which one you want to go to. And then you open up that box, it's got all the individual cards inside, and then you just run with that deck, and then you run through that level. You keep all your upgrades and everything, and they tuck away in these nice little sleeved kind of character portfolio type things. So you have all your upgrades like tucked away, and then you open up the next box and you're good to go. So definitely want to play this some more. It's freaking awesome.
Travis, I have some questions here.
Yes.
Have you played Slay the Spire, the board game?
I have played about 100 hours of Slay the Spire on like computer. I've never played the actual board game, but I really want to.
The board game I thought was super cool. And I played it. I think I played it only at 3 players, maybe twice. Sounds very similar, and it's like sort of a deck building game. I would say it's a deck building game. Very similar to the game, and has a lot of cool simultaneous play and like sequencing stuff. What's the gameplay of Dead Cells like? Because it sounds very similar. All these roguelites are very similar. You're going through, eventually you die, you come back with a little. So what's the card play like? How does the game operate?
It sounds very similar to Slay the Spire because you're playing cards to deal damage to these enemies that are then playing cards against you, and that's where those two like universes diverge a little bit because Slay the Spire, the video game, is basically a card battler in itself. You are selecting cards based on what the enemy is going to do to you to then block or heal or counter or do damage or whatever. Dead Cells, the video game, is like this frantic, like hands sweaty on a controller, like running through these levels as fast as you can. These enemies just become so overwhelming and it's crazy. Right. So it's really hard to translate that into this card-based battler. But yeah, it sounds like it's like very similar style of board game. So it definitely slows things down a little bit from where the video game is at. But the thing that I love about this franchise is like they are so irreverent of all of the other Metroidvania roguelite games that came before it, to the point where like they have added in all these other like DLCs and stuff into the video game that are direct pulls from like Castlevania and from what's it called?
Metroid?
Metroid and all these other things. They are very irreverent and they continue to add to this game and make it great. And this game is kind of like, it's like a dungeon crawler mixed with Slay the Spire type combat. So
cool.
I still love it. It's very cool. It's not quite like a 1-to-1 comparison like it is Slay the Spire, but
Is there a map? Like, do you have troops on a map and they're targeting you and moving and stuff, or is it just a little more abstract?
No, it's more like it kind of feels like one deck dungeon a little bit, where you're like, this is the enemy I'm up against now. This is what they're going to do.
I like that. I'll give that a go.
Yeah, the cooperative play of it is kind of cool. You can help each other out. So I haven't played it with more than myself. It's just me that's busted open the box. So definitely interested in trying it multiplayer and running through a couple of times, because it's a little limited to just keep doing it over and over yourself. So
some of these minis look awesome.
They're incredible. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Some of the sculpts. in the game you play as like one singular guy that just like dies, and then you get reincarnated back through these. You're basically like on an island prison type thing, and as you run through these different levels in the prison, you
in
know
the
you
sewer,
encounter
it
all
looks
these,
like
yeah, the toxic
yourself.
sewers. There's like these worms that explode and like leave these little bomblets and stuff, and
That's cool.
giant scorpions that shoot poison at you and stuff. So all those enemies that you love from the game are in this card game, and so it's kind of cool to see how they translate those types of actions that you're familiar with from the video game into card-based battling. So
Have you guys played FTL, Faster Than Light, on the computer?
yes,
Yeah, I've put a lot of hours into that, and that's my favorite roguelike. And my first design project was to try to design a deck building version of that, and it
Yeah.
was bad. I mean, my students enjoyed it, but obviously I had no idea what I was doing. And I really want someone to do that. I think that Warp's Edge from Renegade Games kind of does the closest thing to that and has
Yeah.
a really, really cool system. The thing that's so hard about designing one of these roguelikes is that you have to have a series of encounters
Mhm.
that ramp in difficulty so that you have you need a small enough loop that you can have a meaningful battle and build and let that ramp over time. But
Yeah.
then you're playing for 3 hours, right? So Warp's Edge lets you have an encounter that takes like 20 seconds.
Mm.
And every time you defeat an enemy or evade them, you get a chip into your bag. And the whole thing plays in probably an hour. So it's really a clever system. It's solo only, you can any solo game you can play with your buddies, but definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I heard you mention FTL on Amanda's podcast last week,
Yeah.
and I was itching to ask you about it because
It's so cool.
I do like roguelite video games and roguelite board games, and
Yeah.
it's so hard to do where it doesn't become stale doing those first
Yeah.
entry encounters over and over and
Sure.
over again. So
Well, the thing that's so cool about FTL, it's sort of like a Star Wars thing. You have some you have like information you're trying to get to the forefront of the rebellion, and you're being chased by whoever, and you go level to level, and when you encounter these ships, you have a ship with different systems, engines, weapons, this and that, and there's cooldown times, and the weapons are charging and stuff, and you have crew, and like you can assign crew to specific systems to like upgrade or like enhance their efficiency. But then also when you shoot weapons, you can target where they hit and not like, so one of the strats that I like to do is you get these ion cannons that disable one of the systems on the enemy ship.
Yeah.
And you can just, if you have fast enough ion cannons or enough of them, you can just hit their life support over and over and over until they run out of oxygen.
yeah,
And when that happens, you get like more of their scrap. It's so fun to do. And then there's like your hull will burst and you have to assign somebody there. So it's real time, but one of the cool things is you can pause as often as you want and make your assignments and then return to the game in real time. So it doesn't have that like real time dexterity, like sweaty hand thing of like a Dead Cells.
yeah,
It's the one downside is that once you kind of find a path to actually beat the thing, it doesn't necessarily feel like a lot of the other paths are viable.
yeah. You just
And
like, break
it's
the
not a
game.
roguelite. Like it's just you play it and you lose and you try again and you lose and you don't get any ramping.
Right.
Gaming.
I mentioned last week Balatro. Have you played Balatro yet? Yeah.
I played a lot of Balatro on the Switch when we traveled a couple times, and I think it's an amazing system. Everything about it is so fun. I think it's very hard to try to put that on a tabletop. And I've played 2 prototypes from published designers that try to do this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And it's not easy. I think we're kind of entering an age where poker is going to see a resurgence,
Yeah.
and that's fun. But like the Gang was an amazing, that's so cool. But you're scoring, I don't know, 7 million points on a round, where previously you were getting 2. So how are you going to do that? You're going to have point chips that go to billions. You know, it's tough. It's tough.
Well, also,
And the math.
And the math. That was my big
Yeah.
thing. It's like, you gotta include a calculator in the box with this game, because once you start adding in all those jokers and stuff, it'd be cool if somebody can skillfully do that and keep it clean. But
Yep.
man, I think people are going to try regardless of whether or not it's good.
Mhm.
I think they're going to try and capitalize on this Balatro wave because people get hooked
Yeah.
onto poker real easy. So
And they have an app now, so it's just kind of
Yeah.
hitting a wider market. It's an awesome game.
yeah, awesome. Are we ready to fall in on the mission objective?
Let's move out.
Let's
All
go.
right. So Paul, more
Yep.
of you talking, but you gave us a brief intro. You're with Gamehead Games. Why don't you give us
Yeah.
the spiel for Gamehead Games up front?
Cool. So Gamer Mats is I don't know how long it's been around, but it's a very successful company with US production of playmats. Or I suppose some of the materials are produced in China, but they're printed here in the US, in Chicago. They make all the game mats for Pokemon organized play in the US, for example. And they're connected to Pastimes, who does very large events like Magic Cons and all of the Magic and Lorcana tournaments at somewhere like a Gen Con. So very successful up to now, and they've rebranded as Gamehead. So in short, Gamehead makes gamer mats, and now Gamehead makes games. So it's very similar to what BoardGameTables.com did when they rebranded as All Play. Like when I saw on tour, which is a really awesome flipping right, and I saw that the publisher was BoardGameTables.com. I was like, something's not right. Like this doesn't make sense. Like going to All Play, which is something Joe Wiggins was a part of. I think that's been the mold for what we're trying to do. And I was brought on as creative director to really lead the whole charge to make games. And our plan is 6 small box games around $20 in the same size box. I've got like an approximate box here, which is, it's about 6 inches by 6 inches by 2. Chose that box size very carefully. 2 of those will sit side by side in your Calyx, and 6 will stand up. So
nice.
after you get our first wave and our second wave, you can have all 12 right there in one cube. And yeah, we're focusing on 3 different kinds of games. Jared, you'll be pleased to know we have 2 party games coming out. One of them is a 1 to 100 player roll and write word game called First Class Letters, designed by Peter C. Hayward of Things and Rings and Fiction and Critter Kitchen and many, many awesome games. Cartouche, one of my favorite games. That game's really cool. I think people will really enjoy it. It's obviously got this postal theme. Our other party game is a game we're calling Foolish Fool. And this is, there's a French game called Foo Foo Foo, which means crazy. And it's published in Korea, I think. And this is a really fun, if you like drinking games, it's very fun. You flip a card and it says something like, from now on, at the start of your turn, you must salute the player on your right and left before you draw a card. And from now on, instead of the word card, you have to say couscous. And then you have other things that say when you pick up a card, you have to say, oh, this card is heavy. So then very quickly you're doing things like saluting your neighbors and then picking up and saying, oh, this couscous is heavy. And as soon as people make mistakes, they lose one of their tokens. And once you lose all 3, you're the foolish fool and the game ends. So it's really fast and fun. And we've actually taken the core game from France and the expansion and put them both in the same box. So there's a ton of value there. It's 108 different cards. Very fun. So that's our 2 party games. And let's see, we're going to have 2 casual games. I've got one to show off here. This one is Corgi Pileup, designed by me and Steve Ellis. This is kind of a re-implementation of Cucumber. Also the Gudetama card game. It's very similar to that. And I'll show you some of the art. It has fabulous art by Sai Beppu that shows cutie pie corgi pups piling up. You've got 2 of them there, and then 5 of them. They start making these pyramids, and there's 8. And one of the best ones here is the 9. It's got a little corgi butt on it.
That's awesome.
Oh,
And
my gosh.
some of these cards have special powers because they're triangular numbers. To get into the math here a little bit, 1, 3, 6, 10.
Oh.
So if you play one of these, they'll have some special power for the round because those are like perfect pyramids of dogs.
Oh.
Nice.
And it's a really simple, fast, casual trick-taking game. Everybody plays a card, or somebody plays a card, and then you have to climb up the pile up, which means you have to play a higher card, increasing the pile, and that'll continue. Or you have to play the lowest card in your hand. So there's some control over your hand and some that you don't have. And your last card you play is the one that you score. So only the last trick counts. And you'll advance your marker up this Corgi pyramid. And the game ends when somebody falls off the pyramid and goes back to 0. And at that point, the highest score wins.
Whoa.
So you want to get up there, but you don't want to fall off the pyramid, and you're not sure when somebody's going to fall off the pyramid. And so,
That sounds fun.
you might get up to 15, hoping that the game's going to end this round. Somebody's going to go over, and I'll be there. But if they don't go over, now you're stuck at 15, and you're probably going to lose in the next round. But if you can somehow climb every time and hold on to your 1, play that on the last turn, then you can score 0 or any played card.
Oh.
So there's a lot of cool little twists in it. Plays probably in 20 minutes, and it's a little random, but so fun and fast that you'll probably want to play again.
Is the queen involved? I mean, the great late Queen Elizabeth.
She's not in there. We probably should have put put a little something in there, a little nod to her, but we didn't.
It's fine. I was just wondering.
Yeah, I understand. Our other casual game is Venture Angels, designed by Bruno Faiduti. That is up on Board Game Geek if you want to pull that up. This is a super, super cool, fun game, Venture Angels. It's kind of a bluffing game. It's almost a bidding game, Venture Angels. Each round, you're going to flip out some, like your angel investors. You're kind of like sharks from the Shark Tank. And these funny projects will be up there that, like computer for dogs or, human cloning or stuff like that. And you have these bidding chips with some value. And you see like that robot butler needs 8 points of funding. And so players play their chips around the table face down. And then they're revealed. And anything that didn't fund is discarded. You have to get at least to its funding level. And then of the ones that were funded, if there's one that's higher than all the others, it's overhyped. And it's actually goes away. You can't have it. But then from the rest, whoever's the lead investor gets that thing. And that is whoever put the most funding investment into it. And the tie is whoever went first. So you get these tiles, which might be worth like 10 points. But you only score your highest investment in each category. So you have to diversify. It's really fun. It's very quick. And that's one I super love. I think it's in our casual line, which is it's for families or kind of new gamers. But it's one that I think, hobby gamers like all 4 of us will really like.
Yeah, that sounds rad.
Yeah, that's super cool. And it's got art by Ian O'Toole.
No.
So there you go. Another exciting thing. Yeah. So that's an art direction by Vincent Dutré, the very famous artist. Then we have a Thinky game line, which is really directed at the hobby gamer specifically. We have Trinket Trove, which has art by Sandara Tang and Manny Vega graphic design. This is about collector critters living in the margins of the human world, collecting things like, let's see, I've got some examples. So you collect like a thimble and you use it for your pot. And then on the side here, over here, you can see if you have 1, you get 5 points. But if you get 2 of them, it's 35 points. Let's see what else we got. We got gems, which they kind of use for illumination. And there's this number at the top says that there's 6 in a full set of gems. But there's 12 of them in the deck. So if you get all the way down to the top, it's 125 points, which is a lot in the game. If you get to 200, you're doing pretty good. The feather, little known, I guess not that little known. My wife and kids, their last name is Feathers. So I try to put feathers in my games when I can. I've got a little little feather tattoo here,
Heck
and
yeah.
the other one there with some feathers on it. Let's see, we've got a couple more. The bottle caps. They use bottle caps as bowls in this world. And the mirror, it's a little locket, and that is a wild. It can just copy whatever you want it to be.
Wow.
It's very cool. It's sort of like inspired by the Rats of Nim. So we have Miss Brisby, who is named after the Rats of Nim character,
Yeah.
who's originally called Frisbee in the game. I mean, in the book. We have where's that other one? I gotta find. Well, we have a Nimbus, who's kind of like Nicodemus from the movie. We have a character called Bernard, which is a nod to the Rescuers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Secret World of Arietti. Show you a couple more. We have Patches, who's a
Oh, nice.
beautiful little mouse.
That's
We
awesome.
have some Chonky boys. We got Gouda.
Oh,
And then Templeton the rat is, I think, a nod to what? I don't remember. Templeton from
oh,
Babe or something, or Charlotte's Web. I think
yeah,
it's
Oh, yeah.
Charlotte's
yeah,
Web.
yeah, yeah.
So that is Trinket Trove, which is very fun to play. The set collection game. You put out some trinkets from the night, and you're trying to collect those sets. But in order to get those sets, you bid for draft order with cards from your hand. So you might offer up a gem and a thimble to other players, and whoever offers up the most cards gets to go first. And in the case of a tie, it's the total value here.
Oh.
But then those cards become something that can be drafted by other players. So really cool. It's sort of a little bit like Fantasy Realms. And our other thinky game is an amazing trick-taking game, No Loose Ends. I don't have the final art here, but I'm getting the like printed prototypes in a week. Super, super cool. And I'm going to show off a couple things coming in the future.
Yeah.
So another, speaking of future, another trick-taking game from Taiki Shinzawa with a time travel theme. So this is going to be called Trick to the Future. This here, just some spec art. And we'll see how far we can get without using that IP. These are the card backs, and this is based on the 7-segment display that's shown on the flux capacitor and inside the DeLorean. So it's a trick-taking game. The suits are past, present, future, and beyond, with beyond as the trump suit. And the cards are these 7-segment displays. But each player has a number of fuel rods that they can use to travel time. So you can take this thing here, and if you put 2 of these segments on it, 2 of the fuel rods, you can change it into an 8.
That's legit.
So
I
very
love that.
fun. And you could take a 7, and if you want to lose a trick, 3 segments will take it down to a 0, for example.
Whoa.
That alone is very fun.
Yeah.
A couple of twists here is that each trick you win is a time travel journey that you go on. And so you get 2 points for going on a time travel journey. Every spent fuel rod that you collect is another point, but you need to be able to get back home. So you have to save enough fuel rods to get back home. If you have less fuel rods than tricks 1, you get no points.
Dang.
And if you have exactly the right amount of fuel rods left, you get double points. So it's a super cool and unique trick-taking game. I've said this other places. Taiki Shinzawa is the master of these card games, and I'm so lucky he did 2 with us. We're working on who the artist is going to be here. Hope to have kind of this 80s vibe, getting close to some references without getting sued by Fox or whoever owns that. And then the last game I want to talk about here is a new party game we've signed from Scott Brady, who did Boop and Hues and Cues and other awesome games. This is a groupthink game about size. It's called Outsized, and everybody has one of these, and you have a card that says something like, what's the size of a fish? And so everybody secretly takes this thing and they go like, okay, a fish is about that big. And then you take these things and you put them on someone's finger. They've got a little ring on the end. And then you check them out. And whoever is outsized at the top and bottom takes a strike. and
Oh,
everybody in the
nice.
middle stays alive. So after 3 strikes,
Oh.
they lose, and everybody else gets. And it's really cool. You have some of my favorite cards are things like how big is a leprechaun?
Hmm.
You know, because there's not a right answer. So it's like trying to think the way that other people think.
Interesting.
So fun. So they have a look at the 6 that are in this first wave. That's going to release probably Gen Con, but depending on how fast production is, we might have copies to sell at Origins.
Okay.
And then wave 2 will maybe come 6 months after that. So
And these are going to
Gamehead.
be available on the website, or is it
Yeah,
just
these will
at
go
conventions?
at first at conventions and the website, likely, maybe in June or so, and then we will go straight to retail and distribution.
Okay.
President of the company used to be on the board of Gamma, so and owns a retail shop. We've actually prepared. Let me go grab this. We prepared these retailer kits that
Okay.
are really cool. So if you're a retailer out there, bear with me. I'll be right back.
Okay.
These are so unique and just interesting
Yeah.
mechanisms.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm excited about all of these.
All right, fellas, I'm back.
Yeah.
So we have a retailer display here
Okay.
that retailers can buy like 50% off. And it comes with 12 games in here, two of each of the 6 in this display, and it'll say Gamehead here and things about what they are. And then it also comes with another 12 you can put on your back shelf. So this by the way fits right in a Collex cube, and really excited about that. So I think it's something that a lot of companies, they, when they're starting, they go to Kickstarter or they come to market and they say like, hey, here's a great game that you should buy. And there's a lot of great games out there people should buy, but we're trying to come to market and say, hey, here's a great company with a line of games that you can understand and sell to customers, and stick this thing on your counter. And when they're making their sale, say, did you hear, you like party games? Did you hear about this one? It's $20. And hopefully people will be excited and snag some of these things.
I'm going to buy all of these. These
Yeah.
sound legit. We're so
Fantastic.
excited
Yeah.
about these.
Cool. Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Can I ask you about your personal approach to game design a little bit?
Totally.
Because you
Yeah.
have some classics that you've designed. You have a background in math. How do you go about your designs? Do you focus on theme first? Do you have like a math problem in your head that you need to like get out on paper, but in a board game
Sure.
format? Like,
Yeah,
what does
yeah.
that
What's
look
your
like?
favorite math? What do you like?
My favorite
most?
math? I've spent a lot of so I was kind of doing mathematical art for a long time, and I studied symmetries in different dimensions, and I studied like tiling patterns. So tile placement games are some of my favorite. In grad school, I studied algebra and topology, which is sort of like, I don't know, pretty abstract stuff. But it's also about shapes and surfaces. And like my wedding ring here is a Mobius strip.
Oh, cool.
Probably not going to be able to see this,
nice.
but it's got a little twist in there.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of my favorite kind of math. I also just like recreational puzzles. Cool little questions. I like a question where you understand it right away, but you don't know how to solve it right away,
Sure.
and gives you a chance to like create a little solution rather than just being told like, here's how you find the y-intercept and now do it. I like problems where you get to be clever
Yeah.
and creative.
Yes.
So my approach to design is a great question. I do tend to start with a mechanism because that's the thing I most enjoy in games. Like when I play, I don't know, a game like Fantasy Realms or something, I barely look at the art. Like I know that it's a whatever, and sometimes it makes sense, but I'm looking at points, right? I'm using the names, but I'm thinking about points and systems and efficiency. But I do love when the art makes sense and when the theme makes sense. And one of the things that bugs me about trick-taking games is like often the theme is like, whatever. We're playing cards and there's a Trump suit for some reason.
Yeah.
And and that's okay. So when I design for Honey Buzz, for example, I love tile placement games. I wanted to start with taking some of the stuff I knew from mathematical art and trying to like innovate on tiles and have a new tile system.
Yeah.
And the tile system is based on rhombuses. made of 2 equilateral triangles, and those can
Mhm.
tile the plane in a lot of different ways. And looking at the game, at the finished game, you go, no, it's not. It's a game about hexagons, right? So originally it was going to be these rhombic tilings where they can kind of all point in the same direction, or they can all point at a single point, or there's all these different potential connections. And my idea was, let's have the way you finish these little points determine like what type of building it is or what type of resource it is. And originally we were just going to like put a tile on top of that, or like a circle disc. There's something in math called truncation, where like if you take a triangular pyramid, a D4, and you just do a little cut on the corners, you get like additional triangles.
Yeah.
And you can rectify that and have a certain shape where you have like hexagons and triangles, or you can cut all the way till they meet, like sand it down all the way till they meet, and then you get a D8.
Yeah.
So what I did was I sort of truncated the tiles so that it could make a little space for that tile to fall into. So all of that so far is like just mechanics, right? It's just coming up with a tile system.
Yeah.
But as soon as I had this concept of like, now they look like hexagons and you're putting something in there, I just put it out on Instagram. Like, what does this make you think of? And people were like, a tortoise shell, or, a honey, a hive, a beehive. And as soon as I attach to a theme, I need it to make sense. Like I won't just slap something on there, which is funny because I sometimes see that that criticism on like a review is like, the theme's just slapped on. It's like, you have no idea how much that's not true. So when I started with Honeybuzz and I decided on bees, I just did like a ton of research about how honeybees work. Like at my school, we have a bee colony and a club that harvests the honey and stuff, and like blue ribbon winning honey. And I talked to the head guy and sort of said like, what makes good honey? And he's like, well, it's all about the humidity, and you run fans through it to try to get the humidity to the right thing. And I'm like, well, he's like, you want it to be exactly this number. And so I was building systems around that, and like the way that what the drones do and what the worker bees do and what the queen does and the royal jelly to make a new queen, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
That ultimately didn't make a good game, right?
Yeah.
So yes, I'm trying to incorporate that and make it make sense, but in development, you refine it down to something that plays well. And it was very late in the development that we actually honed in on what I think is the core piece of the game. Because I think the tile system is cool. That's where I started. But the core neat thing is that it's a worker placement game, but you don't place for actions, which is a common confusion. You place for action tiles.
Yeah.
And those action tiles might trigger. They also might trigger on later turns. So instead of looking at the action spots and going, okay, this turn I need to produce honey, so let me go to the produce honey spot, you start by looking at your board and saying, if I need to produce honey this turn, which space can I close? Because I've already got most of the actions I'm going to use. And then when I close it, what shape do I want to make? And then what action would be good to supplement that with? And is it so, I try to make like the problems I was talking about that are sort of like easy to understand, but kind of this tough puzzle, tough like nut to crack. I want my games to do the same thing, where it's like, it's easy to teach. Honeybuzz has 5 actions in it, and the turns are place bees and put the tile down, or just call your bees back. So it's really simple, and the objective is very clear: get the most money. But actually solving the puzzle allows you to be clever in the way you put combos together. So that's it. My favorite designer, as I think I said, is Phil Walker Harding. His games have such elegant systems and a couple competing objectives that, I just love the way he works. And I got pitched a couple games when I was at Elf Creek from him, and didn't get the opportunity to sign them. And now I just send him an email every month, and I just say, hey, Phil, like, yeah, hit me up again. Like, let's do one, Yeah, so there you have a little overview of the thing. Yeah, Clay.
I thought it'd be appropriate to raise my hand since you're a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
No, speaking of Phil, what
Yeah.
is your favorite Phil Walker Harding game? Can you narrow it down to one?
I will tell you that over there, I have a 2x4 Calyx that is just every Phil Walker Harding game
Oh,
lined
dang.
up. There's a couple that he made in Australia that you really can't get. But yes, that's over there. I've got all of them. A couple I don't like, but I keep them. So here's kind of the top tier. Imhotep, I think, is one of the best intro games, gateway games ever made, and I adore it. Big time. Baron Park is one of my favorite tile placement games. I'm sure it's my favorite polyomino game ever. And here again, it's like you have very simple systems and simple competing objectives. Get that tile because it's worth a lot of points, but get this other tile because it competes on these race objectives. But also cover these symbols so that you can get the tiles you need, but also finish these mats so you can get bonus points. And just like, again, the turn is simple. Like, place a tile, do the thing. So Baron Park, I think, is genius. The expansion is very cool, but you got to be careful or you're going to get totally smoked. I think Neoville is one that really flies under the radar. Monolith, which I played last weekend, is awesome. Awesome. Llama Land is kind of the end of this trio of Baron Park games, kind of like Baron Park, Gingerbread House, and Llama Land. And Llama Land might be the best of that. It's a little less interactive, but you're stacking these tiles a little bit like Acropolis, and then when you complete these orders, like you get a certain number of resources to get a llama, you actually put the llama on your tiles and it sort of blocks off the stacking.
Cool.
And then maybe the other couple great ones, Gizmos is an incredibly fast,
One of our favorites.
awesome engine building. Yeah, and it's like he took Splendor and was like, let's make this rock. Let's make this fly and be powerful. And talk about, like, going back to FTL and Warp, whatever I called it, I can't remember. That solo game, Warp's Edge. Talk about a fast loop of getting your engine up, and what it can do in 45 minutes is really cool. Other ones. There's so many. It's very, very rare that he has one I don't like. He has a really one of his first games, super simple, 2-player, 3x3 like grid superhero battler, which is like a mini version of what's that game? I can't remember. It's like a minis game, but just with cards. And it's awesome. You can draft these guys and get different sets, and I think that's called Pack of Heroes. So Phil,
nice.
the greatest.
Yeah, I'm looking that one up.
Dang.
Yeah,
so
totally.
you said Knizia was your second. What does Knizia do wrong or Phil do right that separates the two in your mind?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think the short answer is it's a % of success.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
That's probably true.
I mean, and I think Knizia has just so many designs out there, and some of them are fine. Some of them are retreads of old territory that are, okay. They're like, but the thing that I love when I play a game is, like, I think the highest, well, this just doesn't sound right, but I think the highest compliment I can pay to a game is like, God, I wish I had designed that. I just wish that was something I came up with because it's perfect. And Phil hits that more often with something really clean and simple. And I think Knizia's bigger designs are probably amazing, but they're not usually my weight that I like. Rebirth, I love. I probably wouldn't like Tigris and Euphrates, right? So, but he has these really clean, elegant systems that, like, Lost Cities is amazing. That was one of my early games. And we are actually talking about Wave 2 games here. We're going to release an edition, a re-implementation of Vampire, which is a game of his I think from 2000. Super awesome, almost like a Rummy variant. This one's going to be called, well, we don't know what it's going to be called. Originally, it was going to be Wizard 101. It was going to be set in a magic school. But whatever the name is, it's going to be kind of magic themed. There's 6 magical forces you're wielding. There's fire and lava and water and plant like kind of life and aromancy, where you're sort of Midas touch, turning things to gold, and
Mm.
shadow wielding. And you try to collect these big sets in your hand, a little bit like Ethnos, actually.
Hmm.
You draw 2 cards off the deck. You get to keep one, but the other one you discard to the middle of the table, like in its set color. And you're trying to build up sets so that you can play this thing and get a ton of points. But you only get to kind of do each color once in the game. They give you these bonus actions, but the cards you put in the middle of the table are available for other players. And so instead of drawing cards off the deck, they can just I'll take all those shadow cards and then play those shadow cards for, big effects. So, and that's one of my favorite things this game is, like, this building value where other people, leaving something behind makes it more enticing to you. And it's like, is now the right time to grab that or not? And actually, this is something I just talked about. I don't know if you guys know the Decision Space podcast. I recently joined that as a regular host. They talk about decisions in games and a lot of in-depth design stuff. They just recorded their 200th episode,
Dang.
Wow.
and we talked about our favorite types of decisions in games. And one of mine is like, is now the right time? And that game does that very well. The art is by Jackie Davis. She's insanely good, and people are going to love that art. We just got to find a name.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. That'll be in our thinky line for wave 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So somebody wants to get
Yeah.
into game design. They have like
Yep.
this idea that's burning in their brain.
Yep.
How do they go about from idea to
Yep.
play testing with whatever scraps of paper and cardboard they have
Yeah.
laying around to I'm going to go get a publisher and get this out there? Like, what does
Yep.
that process look like?
Sure. I would say, first of all, don't start with the idea that you're going to kickstart it. I think it's you're going to like making the game, and you're not going to like making the company. So, and Kickstarter is a lot of pain for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I recommend absolutely get some paper out, write things down. You don't need to write a rule set. You can keep it in your head, get people to play it, and expect the first many play tests to be bad. But try to
Yes.
find the little kernel of what's good in there
Mm.
and build around it. The question that I always ask, because I get pitched a lot of games now, I did it at Elf Creek and now at Gamehead. The question I always ask myself and then put to the designers is like, what is the game?
Hmm.
What is it about? And in Honey Buzz, like, what are the hooks? In Honey Buzz, it's a worker placement game where you draft action tiles, and the shapes you make are the resources. And when you finish, you get these actions, right? In Stamp Swap, it's a game about collecting stamps and trading them with other players. And in Imhotep, it's you get to put these stones down, but you don't necessarily get to choose where they go, right? You need to be able to clearly communicate that. And if you start your pitch with a long description of the world, you're probably missing the fact that it's not an RPG. I think people sometimes make the mistake of world building instead of game building, and just try to find the piece that's fun. Do a lot of YouTube. Watch Jamie Stegmaier talk about how to make games and prototype. Join your local game designer meetup if there is one.
Hmm.
Get on Facebook, talk to people, and don't be too precious about your design.
Mm.
No one is going to steal your design, and the best way for everybody to know it's your design is to tell everybody about your design, and then people will go, "Hey, that was Clay's design. Like, what are you doing?" Just doesn't happen that much, and just again, don't expect it to be good real often. I worked on Honey Buzz for probably 2 years before it was signed, and
Oh,
then
wow.
another 2 years in development before it was really good, and then, it's been a lot of time now. It's been 10 years probably going. So yeah,
Mm.
there you have it. And then, get on Cardboard Edison, pay for the compendium, find the publishers that are interested in what you have, and email them. You can email me at paul@gamehead.com or info@gamehead.com. And here's my big pitching recommendation. Send an overview video.
Ooh.
A 2-minute overview video.
Ooh.
It can be of any quality. I don't care if you record it on a toaster. Just tell me what the game is in 2 minutes, because when I get an email, if there's that video, I will click it and watch it, and I will probably reply in 15 minutes. And if there's a rule book or there is a long sell sheet, it may be 3 months before I have time to read it and actually
Yeah.
process it. Right? If there's a P&P, I just am not going to print your game probably if I don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
I just have not enough time to play test, and it takes me 30 minutes to print and cut your game. So
Mm.
they have it. Short overview video.
I think I'm going to start just stop sending emails in my regular life. I'm just going to send little reels to my. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Send
That's
a
a
little
good-
YouTube reel.
I like that.
YouTube short. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have been running a bit long, so I think we're going to skip the over the fence portion.
Sure.
Paul, give us one last shout out where people can find you and find Gamehead Games. And then
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to shout out some of my buddies. I want to shout out Jake Friedman and Brendan Hansen, Pete Wissinger, my co-hosts on the Decision Space podcasts. Check it
Nice.
out. The 200th episode's going to release Wednesday. It's so cool.
Dual
I think you need it.
Centurions.
Absolutely. Check it out. Then I've got my buddy Pete Wissinger. He's a designer pal. He's got a game called Crits and Tricks that is gonna launch on Kickstarter soon from Inside Up Games. I helped develop it. It is so neat. It's a trick-taking game where the cards don't have values. They're like D&D classes, and the numbers come from RPG dice that you play to try to complete quests and side quests. Super awesome. Check those both out. And my buddy Taylor Reiner, who worked on a trick-taking game with me, he made Sears Catalog, and he's got more coming out. Check out his YouTube channel, Taylor's Trick-Taking Table. If you want to find me, email me, paul@gamehead.com. Find me on Instagram, Paul Salomon 27 or Blue Sky. And lastly, follow Gamehead Games on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Awesome.
that right
Thank
now.
you. This has been an awesome conversation. But let's wrap today. We did it. Mission accomplished. For Operation Game Night, I have been Travis. He has been Clay. He has been Jared. And he has been the one and only Paul Solomon. Thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us.
Paul.
Thanks, guys. Really
And we're out.
appreciate it. It's
You're
fun
awesome.
stuff.